Hi there, I'm Romana Maiori. How are you today?
Hello there, I'm Dario Ponissi. Welcome to Joint Adventure Level 2.
And once again, we are here for you. Here's the plan.
Here's the plan. Today we'll continue our journey from zero to hero, exploring together one of the fundamental tenets of popular music.
So relax, get hold of your guitar and play on.
Play on. Play on. Alright, I put some chords together to make a song. By the way, this song is called Moon Shadow, just in case you wanted to know. Why I did this? Because every time we put together some chords, we build a thing called chord progression. The word already tells you what it's all about. Progression is something that moves from one chord to another, and then to another, and then to another. All right, there are special chord progressions that many times act as a, how can I say, like a merry-go-round, something like a turnaround, something that comes back always to the same tone. It's important that we know that these are real tenets of music. For instance, you can take a piece of classical music, and usually the theme of a classical piece of music, it's built on a harmony, on some chords, let's say, that usually go back to the original part of the theme. So we can say that chord progression is something that moves in a certain direction, sometimes to come back to the beginning. So chord progression. There are chord progressions for everything, basically, and some of them become really popular, really famous. For instance, in recent years, the chord progression that became very famous is the one that goes from the first tone to the sixth tone. What am I talking about? For instance, you take the chord of C and then the chord of A minor. All right. This chord progression is called 1-6 because you start from C, C1, then you go D, E, F, G, A. All right, so you get to the sixth tone, the sixth note from the C, and you get the sixth. So if you do this kind of chord progression, there's a famous one. Okay, it's a famous song by Louis Armstrong, maybe you might remember, All the Time in the World. But anyway, there are many chord progressions that became popular. Another one is C, D, E, 1-3. 1-3 is... Basically, lots of popular music from maybe 2010 up until now is based on these two chords. Maybe you already explored this part of music. Today, I would like you to come with me to explore another chord progression, which is fundamental. Since the 50s, this chord progression is being used by many musicians. I'm talking about the chord progression that goes from 1 to 6, then 2 and 5, with a variation that we'll explore later. For instance, what am I talking about? If I start with C, which is 1, I go to 6, which is A minor, we did before. Then I go to 2, which is D minor, and I finish with 5, which is G. All right, the result is... So there must be, I don't know, like 2 million songs based on this chord progression. Of course, you can change the tonality, but basically this is it. For instance, let me see. There's the famous one, when the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see, and so on. Stand By Me, you already recognize it. We also studied the riff for Stand By Me, you might remember. There must be maybe in lesson 6 or 7, level 1, if you want to check it out. Anyway, this riff, for instance, goes perfectly with the chord progression we just studied. All right, so this chord progression is being used many times, as I said, in popular music and also in other types of music, in jazz also. Blue moon, you saw me standing alone, without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own, for instance, so it's something very powerful that you can learn, and it's quite easy when you play with somebody and maybe you don't know what song to do. So okay, let's do the chord progression in C. You start doing it, and then you can improvise on it, or maybe sing several songs based on this chord progression. All right. So before I was talking about a variation. The variation is, okay, we said that this chord progression is 1, 6, 2, 5, but there is a chord progression that goes 1, 6, 4, 5. Yes, are you with me? Okay, you're still with me. Fine. All right. So for instance, if I take C as 1, the 6 will be A minor. Before we did 2 and we went to D minor. This time we go to 4, C, D, A, E, F. So we do the chord of F. And then we go to 5, finding, of course, a G. So the result is this. It's very similar, of course, but there are songs like, let me see, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. It's Crocodile Rock by Elton John, a song that maybe has already about 40 or 50 years. So anyway, there are many different songs that you can play with these two variations of the same chord progression. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passes. You can do it also with a variation. Where have all the flowers gone? You go to F. Long time ago. You see, it doesn't really change that much. So you can either play the D minor or the F minor. And if you transpose it, we talk about transposition in a different lesson. But if you change tonality and do, for instance, in G, all you have to do is to follow the same structure. 1, 6, 2, 5, or 1, 6, 4, 5. And you will find out that it can become a really powerful tool in your hands. So now, stay tuned because we're going to use this chord progression of C during playtime.
Ready for playtime?
Yes, we're here, pawing at the ground. We can't wait to play with you.
But before doing that, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram.
Yes, because you will find special features all over. And yes, as a very special song too, I think, today, right?
Indeed. Starting from the title.
Okay, what's the title?
Seized, Amorphous, Deemed, Jilted.
Okay, seized, amorphous, deemed, jilted. I see. Sounds like an interesting story. Let's do it. How do we do it? It's very, very easy. Okay, we'll start with C and A minor, and we repeat it twice. We'll go... and then again C, and we go into A minor. And then from here, we take the chord progression of C that we studied during the previous section of this lesson, which is C, A minor, D minor, G. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit slower than this, of course.
Yes.
Are you ready? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Pat your head and wipe the tears. C minor, D minor, G. No more fears, and you'll never again feel C. Amorphous. D. Jilted. You never again feel C. Amorphous, dim, jilted, you never again feel seals. Amorphous, dim, jilted, never again. So that's it for today. If you liked what you saw and heard,
Do come back to study and play with us.
yes, come back to Joint Adventure Level 2. Ciao.
Ciao.